Elvis. Yes, what you've heard is true. What sets Elvis apart from the other biopics about musicians is the fact that this is a biopic directed by Baz Luhrmann, a person who has a very distinctive style of presenting the material. It's a visual spectacle, it's an experience, and it is something that is genuinely interesting to watch. You don't want to put the film on pause and take a break, which is the case for a good two-thirds of the movies nominated for Best Picture at Oscars this year. But as you might expect, Elvis has what it seems an inherent vice of the majority of biopics. It is a very sanitized version of the story, and it almost openly invents stuff that never happened in real life. Yes, it is not a documentary, and we don't expect it to be a documentary. But there are certain boundaries where you probably don't want to distort reality too much. Here I could tell you a couple of heartfelt words, or even entire paragraphs, about the importance of Elvis for pop culture, but I don't use ChatGPT to write reviews for me, so let's talk about the plot. The plot obviously follows the life story of Elvis, but it jumps here and there in time when Baz Luhrmann feels it should. You have episodes of Elvis as a child, but fortunately not too many. Everybody knows that this is not something people want to see. It has early Elvis, post-military service Elvis, his comeback special, his late performances. Pretty much most of the timeline is covered. Naturally, nobody shows how Elvis died. It would have turned this generally upbeat and festive movie into something else. The story is kind of told from the perspective of Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who basically serves as the main villain of the film, which is an interesting choice. The actor for this role is an interesting choice as well, because it's Tom Hanks with a prosthetic nose. And we cannot avoid the subject of Austin Butler, who plays Elvis, and actually sings some of the songs himself, which is quite an accomplishment. When I first saw the posters for the film, I had a feeling that Austin Butler looks seriously out of place, like some sort of an uncanny valley version of Presley. And I still believe that he looks kinda strange in static promo materials. But he's surprisingly convincing in motion. All the praise and all of the nominations he gets for his work actually makes sense, although calling it the best performance of the year is probably a stretch. Now, let's move to the problematic side of the movie. The film takes lots of liberties and at times tries to depict Elvis as almost a punk rocker, like his onstage antics, which includes pelvis movement, were so outrageous that he was kind of pushing the boundaries, he was a rebel at heart, and so on. That's not quite true, and, say, presenting his performance of Trouble as something really wild, like Elvis was a G.G. Allen of his time, is neither the best nor the most historically accurate idea. The same goes to exaggeration of his intentions to use songs for political statements, and pushing the idea, through all of the movie, that Elvis was pretty much exclusively influenced by black artists and practically was an African American in disguise. Yes, he was deeply influenced by all this music, but not to this extent, and no, he wasn't a close friend of B.B. King. That's just pure fantasy dictated by the current political climate. Just like most of their biopics, Elvis is heavily sanitized and tries to evade controversy when possible. That's just traditional practice. If you're watching a Johnny Cash biopic, you won't hear loud and clear about domestic abuse, constant cheating, the fact that he has abandoned his 4 children, etc. It all will be toned down or not mentioned at all. If you're watching Straight Outta Compton, you won't see Dr. Dre punching his women in the face or any other serious insights into his outrageous private life. The upcoming Michael Jackson's biopic, produced in cooperation with his estate, will almost certainly try to shift your attention from the fact that this man was a monster. So the Elvis biopic does what it is supposed to do. It doesn't tell you that real life Elvis had a particular interest in underage girls through all of his career. And even the fact that he met his wife when she was 14 is obviously toned down. I also had an impression that sometimes the movie inadvertently tells you a couple of things that Baz Luhrmann never had in mind. Even with Austin Butler's stellar performance, Elvis essentially comes off as a very shallow, very two dimensional person. A person who was only interested in singing songs and in acting. Outside of the stage, he practically never existed and just moved aimlessly like an atom in the void. Because his horizon was the opposite of broad, which kind of explains why the list of his hobbies, so to speak, included mostly drugs, alcohol, gluttony, and underage girls. And it all eventually came to a logical conclusion. You know, some people are shocked when they see old and obese Elvis late in his career and then learn that Presley actually died at the age of 42. He wasn't old at all, and he wasn't a tortured artist either. So, what have we learned from Elvis? Elvis was the original Gigi Allen. Elvis was the champion of black culture. It's okay to sleep with underage girls if you're famous. Obesity is a serious problem. You should probably read more books. In the end, this is a very entertaining film, probably one of Baz Luhrmann's strongest, but the way it twists the facts leaves a bitter aftertaste.